You gather a group of the wealthiest people in your city, ask them to spend $5 billion of borrowed money, and then hand the finished building
Too
and the
risky,
debt that
not
comes with it
interested.
to someone else. On paper, this sounds like a terrible deal. Nobody
This
would
is a
agree to it,
terrible
unless the
deal.
building comes with a stadium attached. Over the last 3 decades, American cities have spent well over
Allocating
$100 billion
public
of
funds.
taxpayer money building stadiums for professional
At
sports
$5
teams.
billion,
Atlanta's
the Los Angeles
Mercedes-Benz
Stadium
Stadium,
towers
SoFi
above.
Stadium in Los Angeles, most expensive stadium ever built at around $5 billion. Buffalo, Nashville, Las Vegas. City after city, cutting checks for billionaires' teams. And here's the strange part. Nearly every economist who has studied stadiums agrees on the same uncomfortable conclusion. They don't pay for themselves. So why do cities keep doing it? If the numbers don't work, why does the building keep getting built? That is the question this video is about. And the answer, it turns out, is not about sports at all. It's about leverage, promises, and a system designed so that the people who make the decision never pay the bill. Let's start with the argument cities make for building these things, because it's not stupid. It's actually very seductive. The pitch goes like this. You build a stadium, and suddenly people come downtown on nights and weekends. They eat at your restaurants, they stay in your hotels, they pay for parking, buy jerseys, spend money that otherwise would have left your city. And around all of that, developers build condos and offices and bars, called economic development. And the promise is that a stadium is like a magnet that pulls money into the surrounding neighborhood. This is why cities keep saying yes. It's not that the politicians are corrupt. Usually, it's that the promise is genuinely appealing. Build a shiny building, attract tourists, create jobs, revive a dead district. Who says no to that? Here's the problem. The data says the promise mostly doesn't survive contact with reality. For over 20 years, economists have studied this question, keep arriving at the same finding. Let me give you the actual numbers. The most famous research comes from economists Dennis Coates and Brad Humphreys, who studied every city that built a stadium over a period of decades. Their conclusion, building a new stadium or arena has no measurable positive effect on a city's income or on how many jobs the city has. Not a small effect, none. The jobs and income that stadium supporters promise simply don't show up. Then there's Andrew Zimbalist, one of the most cited sports economists in the world. He ran the numbers on a typical stadium deal and found that the public usually ends up paying between 70 and 80% of the construction cost, while keeping only a small share of the revenue. Think about what that means. The city borrows the money, pays the interest on the debt for 30 years, maintains the building, pays for police and traffic and cleanup on game days, and the team keeps the ticket sales, the parking, the naming rights deals, the suite revenue. City takes on the risk and the debt. The team takes home the profit. And remember, the stadium doesn't even generate the jobs. That's the part that surprises people. Economists call it the substitution effect. The family that goes to a baseball game on a summer night is not creating new money. They're spending money that would have been spent on something else. A movie, a restaurant, a weekend trip. So the stadium doesn't add spending to the city, just rearranges where the spending happens. The city gains a stadium and loses the movie theaters and restaurants that used to get that money. So if the stadium doesn't pay for itself, if it doesn't create jobs or income, why does it keep getting built? Here's the question the whole video has been building toward, and the answer is stranger than you'd think. The first answer is leverage. And this is the part people don't realize. Sports teams are a limited resource. There are only 32 NFL teams, 30 NBA teams. There are more cities that want a team than there are teams. And a team owner can threaten to move. And here's the thing, that threat is real. Los Angeles lost the Rams and then got them back. St. Louis lost the Rams. Oakland lost the Raiders. San Diego lost the Chargers. Teams left. And the cities were left with nothing, no team, and often still paying off a stadium they built for a team that's now gone. So when a billionaire owner says, build me a new stadium, or I'm moving to a city that will, the city is in a terrible bargaining position. Politicians know that if they say no and the team leaves, they'll be blamed for it at the next election. So they say yes, because in the short term, saying yes looks better than saying no. And that brings us to the second reason, one that should make you uncomfortable. Politicians think in election cycles. A stadium takes years to build, and the benefits, the photo ops, the ribbon cuttings, the claim that I brought you a stadium, all arrive before the next election. The costs, the debt payments, the maintenance, the lost tax revenue arrive years later, long after the politician has moved on. The person who makes the decision never pays the bill. That's the system. The people who say yes get the credit. People who pay are you, the taxpayer, 30 years from now. Now, before we end, I want to be fair, Because there's one thing the stadium boosters get right, and it's worth understanding. A stadium is not always a waste. There's a real difference between how a stadium performs and how a downtown district performs. A well-located stadium can be part of a broader development, a neighborhood built around it that becomes genuinely alive. Think of places like San Francisco's Mission Bay or some of the ballpark and core districts that actually work. The problem is not that stadiums can never be part of a good city. The problem is that on their own, they don't create the jobs or income that cities pay them to create. And when a city hands a billionaire owner a subsidized building on the promise that it'll pay for itself, the data says it won't. The cities that do it well treat the stadium as one small piece of a bigger plan, not as the plan itself. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Every economist who studies this agrees, stadiums don't pay for themselves. But cities keep building them because the people who decide don't pay for them. The owners get the profit, the politicians get the credit, and 30 years later, the bill shows up on your tax return. The next time you hear a city announce a shiny new stadium, remember the substitution effect, remember the leverage, and remember who's actually paying for it. If you want to understand the hidden economics behind the things everyone takes for granted, subscribe, because that's what this channel does. And if you've ever watched a city in your area spend millions on a stadium, drop a comment and tell me which one. I'd genuinely like to know.